Welcome to another video. Today's video, I'm gonna see if I can get the wipers to work on the 71 Dodge Challenger RT. Stay tuned.
Music bed.
So this is what the dash switches mess looks like. I've already kind of been working on this, so this is what the panel looks like, right? Once you take it off, and I'll show you kind of putting it back on, which is the same, except I'm gonna do it backwards. But essentially, you have two screws right here on top, two screws here at the bottom. Now there's a couple other trim pieces that you have to remove, and I'll show you here in a little bit to be able to get to those screws here. Once you get to those, you kind of have to pull this out a little bit and then sideways, and the whole thing, you know, comes forward. You can reach back here and unplug all your switches back here. So, and then here on the back, so this is bolted on here like this, and you have all of these holes right up here where all the screws hold this panel to this plastic piece. So I'm gonna clean this up because it's kind of dirty here around, and I mean it's old, right? It's see, 70, 80, 90, 2000, 2010, 2020, so it's 54 years old. So this piece of plastic is 54 years old. I mean, you can see it's, you know, a little beat up. What's really cool, it's this kind of wood looking finish. It's an aluminum metal piece here that they put on top of the plastic, and then you can see where it wraps around, and it has little tabs. So, you know, it bolts onto here, or not bolts on, but it clips onto it, and then there's tabs on the back side that go through there, and then they just twisted it to hold it in place. So pretty cool. Pretty cool the way that works, and it looks. Now obviously when this car is fully restored one day, I'll probably have to get a new one. I mean, I don't think there's a way to really, maybe I could refinish that, I'm not sure. What's kind of interesting is just like the lettering, right, for your switches. It's just like a little, almost like you had a label maker and you just printed the little decals that say, you know, dimmer, headlamps, and whatnot. So so this is what I got here. So let me just kind of show you what I've done so far. So originally, if you watch some of the older videos, when I first started working on the car, the headlight switch, you know, I finally got it to work as far as the running lights. So that's the middle position. So this is the switch there, and you flip it in the middle, go up, that's parking lights, running lights, and then if you flip it up, that's your headlights. Now headlights never worked, so I ended up doing kind of like a toggle switch, just running to the dimmer switch on the floor, and that got me the headlights, and I would just use this for the running lights. Since I had this apart, what I did is I ended up unfolding these little tabs, which I made hit it a little bit more just to make it stay together tighter, but took it apart, and it's really simple. I should have filmed it, but really simple design inside here. So this switch just moves a little like a tray inside, and in that tray there's almost looks like a staple. There's two little staples, and so when you move it, both of those move, they slide up, and it makes the contacts from power to your running lights. And then if you move it up farther, it makes a contact from, let's see, I believe it's this contact here, which is like power going in. So what's also interesting is it's power going in and then coming out for your running lights. Power going in comes out this side for your headlights. So once you move it further up, the first staple goes up and it makes a contact between these two. And then the second staple takes the place of that first kind of staple and makes a contact on the parking lights and then now the headlights. Now the headlights, there's a like a long little bar. Looks like the breaker points back in, you know, the old days. Like my '67 Mustang used to have breaker points on the distributor. That's what it looks like, a little bar with the contact set here at the end. Almost looks like a breaker. And I think really what the problem was, once I got it apart, I cleaned up the contact on the breaker, and that made it so I would have continuity. Because this part, the switch part was working. It's just, you know, the power was going through that little breaker and then out this. And a couple times when I had a test light and I would touch here and I could light it up. So I'm like, okay, cool, it's working now. Maybe just, you know, the corrosion went away. But then as soon as I hooked up the headlights, I think the load was just too much, and the breaker, it had very little contact and it would just stop going. Either it would just kind of make a spark and it would stop it from making a contact, or it would just kind of, you know, kind of push itself back. So I cleaned the contacts with a little bit of sandpaper. So I have the sandpaper here. I cleaned it up and it seemed like it was doing a, you know, it got a good contact going through. I actually went and plugged it in the car, and it did turn the headlights on. I tested it and it did work. So I'm gonna, when I put it back together, I'm gonna get the wire back from here to that dimmer switch. I'm probably just gonna run a whole new wire and leave the other one kind of ran, because I already zip tied and everything, just in case it ever stops working. Then I can just pull over and plug in the other one. But I think this one started working that way. So got this one all set up. And man, what I've been finding out working on this Mopar vehicle is things are expensive. I mean, this little headlight switch, which you would think, I mean, it's a little headlight switch. And, you know, I get it. They probably only did this in a few years, but this switch is about $150 to buy. And, I mean, ultimately, when the vehicle's gonna be completely restored, then yeah, I would probably just buy it. But man, it's just crazy little switch, $150, and that's, you know, that's minimum. When I have the ones I found on eBay. Now, I don't know if those are like brand new, or a lot of them are just old that supposedly they work. Couple new ones I think could be a little bit more expensive, but I think maybe Classic Industries, it's like 125, about $100 some, 150 maybe. It's pretty expensive, but anyways, hopefully that's good. The next one is the dimmer switch. So none of the inside lights were working, and I think the problem was this one was same thing, really corroded. Now the only thing I was able to do, I took this all apart, bent this tabs, took it all apart, took this little clip off, which the old one, it was here somewhere, but the old one broke. It's right here. So I just got a new clip. And what was going on here is the contact here on this plate and on this wheel, it was really corroded. So same thing, even if you turned it, it wouldn't make a good contact. To pretty much, this works two ways. Power goes in and it comes out this side for your lights in the dash, or, you know, well, when it was going in and then it wasn't making no contact at all, nothing was coming out. So none of the inside lights were working. I ended up running a wire to my tail lights, my running lights, for the dash lights, just so it lit up. But what I did is I cleaned it up, and then this little wire tab in there, right now it's hitting directly to the contact, which means it should light up pretty strong on the brightest setting. Now the spring that's inside of here just broke in pieces, so there's no adjustability on it. And I think I seen kits on eBay for about $50 where you can buy, I think they come with like a new spring and a few of the pieces, or you can buy a new one for another like $125, or I think they were new. But I'm just gonna leave it like this so my inside lights turn on. I don't need to really turn them. The other part to this switch is for your map light. When you turn it, this little plastic piece hits this wire that makes a contact here on top, which is really dirty and corroded, and that's your ground for your map light apparently. So map light is a full-time power, and then you turn this and it gives it a ground to turn them on. So that's not gonna work for now, really. Again, in the future I might just buy one of those reproduction ones, but for now I think I don't even have a map light. The one that was there was broken, and I did get the switches for the door, so maybe eventually I'll replace those and just have it where if you open the door your map light turns on. This one I'll just leave it. I'm okay with not having it. So, but this one's pretty much ready to go back on. Just gotta bolt it in there. And then last but not least is the wiper. As you saw in the previous video, when I went to Kentucky, the wipers were working before, and then I turned them on and they went really fast, and then they wouldn't stop, and then they stopped and they never turned back on. So part of that I think was the contact inside of this switch, because I kept testing, there was nothing going on. So I did spray some penetrating oil on it. This is probably not the best thing to use, but that's what I used. I was able to get it inside, clean the contacts, and now I tested with my voltmeter. I have continuity. I think this is the battery one from what I saw, or this one here, and then depends on what speed, there's continuity. Now this is a weird switch because it just switches like where power goes. I think 2 terminals at a time get power. Very weird. The other thing is on most of these switches, they get grounded through the plate, through the mounting plate here. So I think that was the other problem, is because when I had it working, I went and plugged it in the car, and I first turned it on, the wipers went like full blast, like it was doing it before. But then once I touched this metal plate to ground, like I scratched some of the rust off the dash, it made a good ground. Then it actually stopped, and it was the speed where I actually had to actually turn it off, and the wipers would go down to the park position. I could go in first speed, second, and third, and it would actually go through all the speeds as long as I had a good ground. So I think part of what happened when I was out there is, it just lost its ground, and that's why they went really fast. They wouldn't, stop, and then I don't know if that made the switch a little warm or anything, and it just wouldn't turn back on. So that's what's going on. It did work now, and I did put an extra ground wire here to this mounting screw, and that way I can actually clean somewhere in the dash there with like a little wire brush, and then mount this just to make sure if this doesn't make a good ground where it mounts, the wire actually is going to put a good ground to this whole panel. But anyways, that's pretty much it. So I should have filmed when I was tinkering with everything. It's been busy last couple weeks, and I only had a little bit of time here and there to kind of work on this. I just kind of wanted to see if I can get those wipers working or figure something out. The weird thing is that motor is not like a simple motor where you could just put like a power and ground. You know, I could just put like a regular switch for it. It works really weird. It gets grounded to the body, and then like you have to put power to specific pins. So and it works that way because if you just put power, yes, they'll work, but then they won't go down to the park position. The wipers will kind of stay a little higher up, which I guess it's better than not having no wipers, but you know, you want them to park and stuff. So hopefully this does the trick. This gets all fixed up, and that's it. So I'm just gonna put this all back together here. And then we'll go put it back in the car, and I'll show you how this whole thing goes back in there. And then hopefully the wipers work once I get it all back in there. And so for this one, the dimmer switch, I mean, it's not a big deal for me, because I already have the lights turned on anyway, so I think I'm okay even if it's just even if it just turns on. The rest, like there's a little light here, which honestly I don't know, it lights up your feet, I guess. I don't know what that's for, but but if you're trying to get, you know, one of these cars, some of these things to work, then I guess, you know, you can find these reproduction or get the parts and see if you can rebuild it. This wiper switch, actually I forgot to mention, that one's really expensive. It's about $350 to get this little switch. So if I can make it work, I don't have to spend that much money, I'm happy with that. If I have to in the future, then I definitely will buy the new one, but if I'm able to save, at least save a little bit of money in the meantime, then we'll go with that. And see what. I guess something to clean this with. Just gonna use some all-purpose cleaner. Be careful using this stuff. I should really get gloves. Usually when I use it without gloves, man, it really is hard on your skin. Gonna try not to let it touch my bare skin. Just the brush, and then wipe it off. I guess do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, I was mentioning earlier, man, I found out these small parts are really expensive to really fix up. I mean, there's a reason why these cars are worth a good amount of money restored, you know. Just every little part is really, really expensive. Now, I always thought like Fords are pretty, they're expensive. But yeah, the Chryslers here, these are just way more expensive. So once everything is, this switch is the only one that actually kind of you can unbolt. And then this little tab here goes right into that little opening there. So when you line it up, you kind of have to push that tab in there and then it clicks. And so this one pretty much the bolts go all the way through. So you could technically take the headlight switch off, just those two bolts, and that one comes off. The other ones, since they're bolted to this plate, you do have to take the whole thing off and then unbolt them from the front. So and as you can see, the bolt here at the bottom, it goes through, and I think this is kind of the contact point where it gets grounded to the dash. And so I had already brushed off this whole part. I had some surface, not rust, but just dirt and stuff on that one. And so that was probably kind of the problem where everything went bananas out there. So just tying all these back up. Now remember, this is pretty much just going into plastic, so be careful not to over tighten anything. And I did have to solder the wire on this light. It was broken right at the end, and I also just put a little bit longer wire because it was kind of hard to get it unplugged, and especially if it was that short. Since I had to solder the end that was broken, I figured I'd put a little bit longer end on it. So that's what it looks like. And then this little, oh shoot, I think I'm gonna have to take this out because the switch for the headlight needs that little piece on the inside. The nice thing is this thing comes off by itself, and I'm just gonna clean this little toggle part of it. So it just pops in. There we go. I'm gonna between these. So these ones just push in as well. If it's your first time taking them off, they're gonna be in there pretty good. So just be careful, because if you pry on the plastic, you don't wanna really just break it. So just take your time, maybe spray a little bit of lubricant. And just do it kind of little by little. So I was able to get these off without breaking them, so that's good. But I believe one of them was really stuck. I think the dimmer one was really stuck in there, so I just had to kind of keep prying little by little. There's supposed to be like the white on this little arrow that goes, you know, so you turn it, but you can always get like paint and put it in there. Then also the other thing on this wiper switch is if you push it, it turns on your washer, and I did test that. It works. At the same time though, when you push it, it's gonna turn to the first speed, so your wipers turn on. And then this is just your dimmer, which this one's not really gonna turn, but normally it would turn. Now, I'm not sure whether there's two holes here. I think the previous person might have drilled for something, but that's not supposed to be there. So this is what it looks like. I'm gonna go in the car, and then I'll show you how to put it back in there. Okay, so we're here in the car. It's really hard to see with the sun is right there, but this is the corner right here where your dash is, right? So we have, this is the plug that goes to the headlight switch. This is the one for the wipers. This is for that little light. And then this one here is for the dimmer. And you can see like this terminal's pretty corroded. I put a new wire. This is the one here that's gonna go down to the dimmer switch, but the headlight dimmer down there. And I'm just gonna replace the wire coming from the switch that I had put on here before. So before, you know, so far I've been using this metal switch, and that turns on the headlights because that goes power directly to my dimmer. Hopefully now I can just turn on the lights, and you know, everything will work kind of like factory. So that's hopefully, like I said, we'll see how that goes. So all this wiring here gets plugged into here. This is the one for the ground, which I may just fish it back, and I see a screw down here that's not being used for anything, so I might just hook it up to that one. I don't see any other kind of screws here close by that I could just kind of hook it up to. And hopefully kind of, you know, you'd want this metal piece to make a good ground on this one, but I think that was the problem before, where that ground was not working right. So what I'm gonna do is, so what you want to do in this situation is just connect all your connectors. This one's gonna be easier for me, but if you have a factory car, this is a little bit hard because it's gonna be really short. Either it's one of the last ones you can hook up, maybe you can get behind there and do it, because this would be way down here, really short. But it can be done. And then the rest of these, they kind of extend out. So as you can see, I'm just kind of pulling on them slightly. My wipers. That's the headlight switch. And dimmer switch. Now, originally the wire for these lights, because this is what lights up, it came from over here. I just ran a new one to the, you know, regular running lights. So that's why this is here. And that kind of gets hidden behind there. So you wouldn't have this wire. I believe this part on your car is going to be kind of back here somewhere. And there's a connector. Actually, maybe not. It just goes all the way in. There's a connector way far in there. I just used it all the way down there. So that's why there's a wire there. So you wouldn't have that wire. And so normally with all these, so you can see they kind of, it's gonna be pushed in, but you want to push the corner in and then it goes in. So this piece goes in first and then the rest just goes in, and see how it's nice and flush. When I first got the car, this was a little bit out, so it wasn't all the way like pushed in, but if you put in this side, you can see it just kind of clicks in there. Everything lines up really nice. You have your 2 bolts here, 2 bolts at the bottom. Now to take it off, kind of the opposite way, right? You want to pull on it and just get, it's gonna be the whole part, but see, get it out, and then you undo it from this side. So this part comes out, and then you just tilt it up. So that's pretty much it on there. So I'm just gonna grab my screws. Let's see, and then this piece, just need to make sure. Okay. So I do have to get 2 screws in here, 2 on the bottom. And from the looks of it, I may be missing 1 screw, so I'm gonna have to go find one. Maybe that's why my ground wasn't making a good contact, because this one here, this corner one down here, that's the one you want to have for your ground. So for sure, make sure you have that one. This one's just hold everything together, but maybe when I had it all apart last time, that was the one that I didn't put in there, and that's why my wipers went bananas. So I'm gonna go find a screw for that bottom piece, and then this top piece here is pretty simple, kind of. So you see all these screws. They just line up, so once it's in the right spot, it's pretty simple for them. They go right in, but if it's not lined up correctly, it's gonna be fighting you the whole way. So okay. Now this middle screws here, you can kind of get with the long screwdriver. I'm gonna go grab a short one, get those tied up, and then I'm gonna find another screw for this bottom piece. I'll be right back. Okay, and the other piece that you need to remove to get to that part is this piece right here. So this one has a screw right here on the side, and then it would have two here at the bottom. Mine's a little bit broken here, and then there's this part here that I'm not 100% if this would have a screw originally. I do have a screw because it holds it from the inside, or if it had a clip. So I think that's how it was, or I just put the screw in there because it was broken when I got it. But that's what holds it in there better. Mosquitoes trying to eat me alive here. So get that in there. And like I said, this is kind of the tricky one. Like I'm not 100% if that's how all of these cars are, but I believe that's how this one was. Or I guess, not that I believe that's how it was, but that's how it was. Okay, so everything is back on. So the screw here on the side, one right here. I actually did find one to put right in this corner, even though it's broken. And then the one from the back side. And there's one here on the inside as well. So that just makes sure everything is nice and tight. I did the same with this. So I think maybe those pieces that go to the back had a clip, but they're long gone, so I just put a screw and that holds it in place. So if yours is broken, you can do that. So all that is all set. I just have to get my ground strap right in here. So I'm just gonna take this screw off, clean that area really good with a wire brush, and then hook up this wire for the ground. Okay, so wire is right here, grounded down. I cleaned it up with the wire brush. So at this point, everything should work. I don't know if I have to have the key on, but let's give it a try. So there we are. So I don't have the actual wipers on, but you can see right there they're working. And then if I turn them off, they go back and they actually go to the park position. Middle speed, fast speed. So nice. Cool, so that's working. Well, looky there, my lights this light bulb's not working, so I don't know. But let's take a look. And headlights are working with that switch. All the lights are on. Sign marker. And headlights. My balance, the bolts had broken on that side before we went on a trip, and I noticed when we came back, one bolt broke. Hey there, that's my puppy. And then this bulb, the wires pretty much slap right at the plug at some point. So I need to fix that and then put some new bolts here on the balance, because there's still one bolt but the top one broke. So, but lights work. And let's see with the dimmer switch here at the bottom, they both work. So that's a plus. Success. So if you want to try to fix your switch, I should have filmed opening this up, but open it, study it, and just clean the contact unless it's something is really broken in there. But the way it's built, the way that headlight switch is built, it's very hard for it to break. I mean, it's just like I said, like a staple, but really thick, and just like a block that moves. So the only thing that, you know, on mine is it was corroded is the breaker, which that's the part that I cleaned, and now it works. So we'll see if it goes bad or anything, but as of now, that's what's powering my headlights. I don't have to use that toggle switch. And the wipers are working. I do have to put the actual wipers on there. I mean, that's gonna put a little bit more of a load, but the motor is strong, so as long as it's getting power, it's gonna work. So that's pretty much it. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to our channel, it helps out a lot. We'll see you next time. Extra footage, I did put the wipers on. Let's see. Hey, looky there. They do work. And they do go down, so I do have to figure out that lip because it's kind of sticking out of the windshield, so it doesn't let them go all the way down. But at least now there's wipers, so if I'm in the rain, it will work. Yeah.